You know how sometimes you hear about something, maybe an old story or a discovery, and it just makes you think, what else is out there? Today, we're really diving into one of those, a deep mystery from the past that, well, it might just shift how you view the future, those big questions about what's coming.
Exactly. We're taking a really close look at the Dead Sea Scrolls. Could these ancient texts, found basically by chance in the desert, actually hold hidden prophecies about, well, the end times?
It's a huge question.
It really is. It's kept scholars, historians, really anyone interested in prophecy pretty captivated for decades.
Absolutely. And, the specific idea for this deep dive, it partly came from watching this video. Are there any end-time prophecies hidden in the Dead Sea Scrolls over on the Fire Spiritual channel?
Ah, right.
Yeah, and it really zeroes in on that core question. Could these scrolls, thousands of years old, actually give us some kind of key to understanding what lies ahead?
And to really get a feel for this, you almost have to, transport yourself back. Picture it, 1947, Qumran, a young shepherd boy.
He's minding his own business, right?
Pretty much. Throws a rock into a cave, maybe just bored, who knows. But instead of a thud, he hears pottery shattering.
Oh, wow.
So he climbs in, and what does he find? These old jars. And inside, ancient scrolls. Just hidden away for something like 2,000 years.
It honestly sounds like a movie plot. It's that incredible.
It really is.
These fragile, ancient pieces of parchment just waiting in the dark, suddenly back in the light. And I mean, the mind-bending part is that scholars are still studying them, trying to piece it all together.
Decades later, yeah.
But here's the kicker, the really intriguing bit. Some of the stuff written on them, it's not in the standard Bible we know today. They talk about these huge, almost cosmic visions, apocalyptic scenarios, things that might sound completely new.
And that's what's so fascinating, the fact that these other texts even exist. It gives us this unique window into the sheer diversity of religious thought back then.
Right. Different ideas floating around.
Exactly. And because some of them contain these really dramatic predictions about the future, it immediately makes you ask, was this just one small group's idea? Or did it tap into a wider feeling, a kind of anticipation about major changes?
Okay, so let's maybe unpack that a bit for everyone listening. Our goal today, our deep dive mission, is to explore if these specific ancient texts offer real clues about the end times.
Yeah.
But we need to look at it from different angles, right?
Yeah.
How significant are they really? Are we talking direct prophecies for us now? Or is it a different kind of historical insight?
Precisely. We need to be sort of thoughtful about it. Keep the historical context front and center when and why they were written. But also acknowledge that this fascination people have with prophecy, with the future, that's timeless, isn't it? It still resonates today.
So true. You jump from that dusty cave discovery all the way to today.
Yeah.
And we're still talking about these scrolls. Their power to capture the imagination is just unreal.
It taps into something fundamental, I think. That human need to understand where we fit, in the grand scheme of things. Are there patterns, are there signs we should be looking for?
Yeah, looking for meaning for what's next. Okay, so let's fast forward a bit then, maybe towards summing up. When we think about this core question, end time prophecies and the Dead Sea Scrolls, what are the main takeaways we found?
Well, I think one crucial thing to grasp is that the scrolls are this physical link to a really pivotal time in religious history. First off, they've got fragments of nearly every Old Testament book. That alone is huge for scholars tracing how the Bible developed.
Okay, yeah, that's important context.
But then you have the other writings, the ones from this specific community, the Essenes. You can sort of picture them as this quite devout, maybe somewhat separate group within Judaism back then.
Almost like monks or something.
Kind of, yeah. Really focused on ritual purity, and they definitely had their own specific ideas about how things were going to unfold, about the future.
And our source material highlights that these Essene beliefs were pretty unique, didn't it? Like talking about massive cosmic battles.
Oh, absolutely. The Essenes wrote quite a bit about these wars between light and darkness, really detailed stuff about heavenly battles. And they were waiting for this figure they called the Teacher of Righteousness.
Teacher of Righteousness.
Okay.
Yeah, someone they thought would lead them into a new age. And honestly, when you read parts of the book of Revelation or other apocalyptic writings,
you hear echoes.
You definitely hear echoes of these themes. It's hard not to see the parallels.
It's like these ancient threads weaving through different traditions. But the part that really jumps out, as the source points out, is that some of the specific prophetic ideas in the scrolls, they aren't actually in the Bible we use today. That feels significant, doesn't it? It certainly adds a layer of complexity. If there's prophetic material that didn't make the final cut for the biblical canon, it naturally makes you wonder, well, why not? What was the selection process? Are we potentially missing parts of a bigger prophetic picture?
So where do scholars land on this? Is there a sense that these, let's call them missing prophecies, could actually fill in gaps for us today? Tell us more about the end times.
Well, like with most things this complex, there isn't one single answer. There are definitely differing views, which is important to understand.
Okay.
Some scholars do suggest, yeah, maybe the scrolls give us a richer picture of what people expected back then, what signs they looked for leading up to what they saw as the end.
Like what kinds of signs?
Things like, major wars, natural disasters, maybe a breakdown in society's morals. Some even look for hints of timelines, so that's often very speculative.
Right. But then, as the source also mentioned, there's the counter-argument.
Exactly. The perspective that says, hold on, these writings were very specific to this one group, the Essenes. They weren't necessarily writing universal predictions for millennia later for our time.
So more of a historical snapshot of their beliefs.
That's the argument. That the Essenes were, relatively speaking, somewhat isolated. They had their own unique ways of reading scripture, their own anxieties based on their historical moment. So from this view, their prophecies were mainly about their community and their sense that the end was imminent for them, not necessarily for us thousands of years down the line.
Okay, that makes sense as a historical perspective. But the source did raise that other, quite provocative point. Even if the warnings were originally for their time, could they still hold some relevance now? I mean, you look around today, global conflicts, environmental crises, shifts in values. It's not hard to see why some people might feel a connection, why they might see parallels to these ancient apocalyptic ideas.
And that's a very understandable human reaction, isn't it? To seek patterns, to look for meaning in old text that seems to resonate with our own experiences, the cycles of history, conflict, change. It often leads us to draw those lines across time.
Yeah. And didn't the source also mention specific figures? Someone called Melchizedek, appearing in some scrolls linked to the end times. That sounds pretty specific.
Yes, that's right. There are scrolls, not many, but some, that discuss Melchizedek. You might remember him briefly from Genesis and Psalms.
Vaguely, yeah.
Well, these texts give him a much bigger end times role, maybe as kind of divine warrior figure or a judge. And similarly, you find descriptions in some scrolls of a huge final battle, good versus evil.
Which sounds
an awful lot like the idea of Armageddon that you find later in the New Testament. Yes, the imagery is very similar.
So if these texts contain things like that, specific figures, battles, it does make you wonder, as the source hinted, why haven't mainstream religions maybe engaged more, publicly with these particular scroll fragments?
That's a fair question.
Could there be something challenging in there? Controversial even?
It's probably a mix of factors. I mean, some texts are very fragmented, making interpretation difficult. There are ongoing scholarly debates, genuine disagreements about meaning. And yes, perhaps part of it is that some interpretations could challenge or diverge from more established theological views. That's certainly possible.
So where does all this leave someone listening trying to sort through it all?
Well, I think what this deep dive really shows is just how incredibly rich and, frankly, complicated these ancient scrolls are. Do they contain specific coded prophecies for our time? That's still very much up for debate, for interpretation.
Right. No easy answers.
No easy answers. But what they undeniably do is give us this amazing glimpse into the world, the beliefs, the anxieties of a community living 2,000 years ago. A community deeply preoccupied with prophecy, with the idea that huge changes were just around the corner.
It definitely feels like there's more digging to do. Which, I suppose, leads to the challenge the source kind of puts out there, right? Don't just accept what you hear.
Exactly. This isn't just some academic puzzle for experts.
It's something you can engage with yourself.
Precisely. We'd really encourage anyone listening, if this sparked your interest, delve a bit deeper yourself. Look into the scrolls. Read about the different scholarly takes. Think about that historical moment they came from.
And maybe on a more personal level, it prompts you to reflect on your own beliefs, What do you think about the future, about the whole idea of prophecy? Is it possible there are important truths hidden in unexpected places, like ancient caves?
Yeah, this whole exploration really underlines that idea, doesn't it? That seeking knowledge, seeking understanding is often a very personal path. The answers aren't always just handed to us in neat packages.
Right.
Sometimes it means doing our own investigating, asking those hard questions, and maybe being open to finding insights in sources that are thousands of years old.
Definitely give you something to think about, for sure. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
My pleasure.
Until our next exploration, stay curious.